Hi everyone. So today now we are going to start with our module number 3. I'll take you through the content of module number 3. So the module third one is about reading and listening skills. Both of them are of course very important. In fact, everything in this subject, whether it is speaking or listening or reading or writing, everything is important, because when we are talking about communication, these are different ways in which we try and communicate, right? So reading is equally important and listening is most important. So in this module, what we're going to discuss is types of reading: skimming, scanning, intensive and extensive reading. Now, we will also go through a quick overview of what is comprehension and how to comprehend. And we're going to discuss effective listening skills and some of the barriers to effective listening and what are the ways to overcome the barriers. So, mainly about reading and listening is what we are going to discuss. Now, some basic introduction to reading. So, you must be thinking that why to learn this? We know we've been reading our whole life, right? Since the time you were a small child, in the school you started reading. So same thing, still even when you've grown big, still reading is very important. And if, let's say that if you are not sound with your language, or if your vocabulary is not good, then what happens is that certain words you will not be able to read clearly. If you don't read clearly, then you will not be able to comprehend or understand them, right? So many times it happens, I'm sure all of you will agree, that let's say if you're watching a movie on Netflix, which is not a Hindi movie but which is in different language. Let's say that you're watching a Spanish movie, or you are watching a movie, let's say in English also, or you're watching a movie in any other language, right? In Italian, or you're watching a movie um, which is Korean. So then what do you do is, like, because you're definitely not going to understand the language, so you will be relying completely on the subtitles which will be there. Now, tell me, do you 100% understand each and every word which is coming as a subtitle? Maybe not, right? You are reading but you don't understand, you're not able to understand. So many things you miss because you don't know the meaning of those words. So what, you should sit with a dictionary? What should you do? So that means whenever we are reading, I mean, ideal scenario was that even when you were a small child, if you had the habit of reading, then you must have actually improved your vocabulary. Because when we are small, when we read novels or when we read some interesting books, then if we don't understand the meaning, we always underline and we try to understand the meaning. And that's how you can actually improve your vocabulary. And people who must have done that must be really good at their grammar, must be really good at English language, like that. So, but anyway, now we are just talking about reading. Let's see how this is helpful to us. See, how many books have you read this year? For example, take any developed nation, for example UK. On an average person, 16 books are read per year, as compared to Malaysians who read on an average of 8 to 11 books a year. But even if you don't have the habit of reading, I would suggest that you must read. You must. Nowadays, even there are online bookstores, or online copies are available, so you can just read online, which is fine. Though the ideal and the best way of reading is to read a physical copy, like try and keep yourself away from the screen and try and read from the book. In fact, if you are not reading, you should also suggest your children to read books. Ensure that they get into this habit of reading books, because it's very essential to improve your language, or to have a strong hold over your language. So anyway, reading is essential. Now, quickly about introduction to reading. So reading is the foundation for success. When children develop different types of reading skills early in their lives, they are more likely to be successful. We have been through the stage where we started learning to read. Initially, it was words, then sentences, and then phrases, and finally the paragraph. So when we are talking about the efficient reading skills, obviously it involves the use of eyes and the brain, right? Because you read it, at the same time your brain is very active, because you are trying to comprehend, you are trying to understand. So in order to read fast, you need to use more of your brain. Reading fast means reading efficiently. In order to do this, you need to read purposefully and interactively. Also, it depends, how well you are able to understand something. It also depends on the purpose of reading, like why you are reading. Now, let's say that some people like enjoys reading crime, or thriller books, or some crime, or some people enjoys reading books which has investigation involved in it, right? Or some people enjoy reading love stories. So that means, like, there's something which is appealing to you, something which you always you enjoy the purpose, and that's why you read it. If you read it with purpose, if you read it with interest, that means you will be able to read well, you will be able to pay attention and understand it better, right? Now, sorry, this is not a live class, otherwise we would have done this activity. But just try and read this, like red, blue, white, yellow, blue, green, red, purple, black, blue. Try and read this. Now, I mean, see, you must have read it easily. I am sure you must have read it easily, but it is so much distracting, right? It is not appealing to the eyes, because when I am reading blue, it is in red color, and when I am reading white, it's in black color, and when I'm reading green, it's in red color, and when I'm reading orange, it's in green color. So that means all these things are really distracting. It is like quite disturbing. So reading is a brain activity, it's a mental activity, and if your eyes and your brain, they are not in coordination, then it starts affecting your brain. Now we are going to quickly discuss what are the types of reading. So there are basically four types of reading. One is called skimming, another one is scanning, third one is intensive, and fourth one is extensive. So there are four different types of training. Please go through the slide once. All right, let's go through this. See, skimming implies going over a text briefly before you decide whether you want to read it whole. In fact, you use skimming a lot in your daily life. For example, when you leaf through a magazine to check if any content in it is worth a complete read. College students can benefit from skimming text in particular. If you are a scholar, you need to collect and research long papers often. So, to help you determine which ones you will use in your study, you should always skim through them first. Right? You will not just start reading the entire textbook or entire reference book, or you might not start reading the entire article. You want to first find out whether it's appealing to you, or whether it's interesting or not. So you will just briefly go through the text and see that the text which is highlighted, is it interesting or not. So here's how you can apply the skimming technique. First, look at the title and table of contents of your material. Go over the text quickly to get the gist of the material, and pay attention to bolded or italicized sentences. So they must have done it. Some people just highlight in the box about some important message which has been passed, or some text are highlighted or italicized. Um, so then it helps us. You can easily go through that and see if that those sentences they are appealing to you. So that's how you can skim. This technique is useful because it saves you plenty of time. You don't have to start reading some material deeply only to conclude after a while that it has no use for you. So basically, you can't waste time, right? If you're not liking it, or let's say if it's not worthy. Now, if you're just reading for the purpose of entertainment, is a different story. But let's say if you're doing a research and there are so many important papers that you would like to read, so many journal articles that you would like to read, but you don't have time. So you really want to select the best ones, though that will be really useful to you. That will help you understand and help you with your research. So you don't have time. So if you go through this kind of activity of skimming, then it becomes much easier. Running your eye very quickly over large chunks of text is skimming. These are just the pointers, so we have already understood the meaning, but these are just the pointers. So what you should do is like quickly locate relevant sections from a large quantity of written material. It might involve the paragraph text. You can also look at the headings or graphic elements to gain an overview of a text. The headings will also give you don't have to go and read each and every paragraph, but titles might help you. This exercise also allows you to pick up some of the main ideas without paying attention to the detail, and it is a fast process that takes only a few minutes. Now, how to skim? Sometimes what you can do is you can take note of bold prints and graphics that I told you. You can also start at the beginning of the reading and glide your eyes over the text very quickly. You don't have to actually read the text in total because you're just taking the overview, and you may read a few words or even paragraph, perhaps the first and the last sentences. So that will give you the idea of what the introduction is, what the conclusion is. In fact, in journal articles and other research papers, they just give the overview of the text, like we call it abstract. So abstract is just giving you the gist of what this entire paper is, what was the objective of writing this entire paper, and what is the conclusion. So if you're convinced by that, then you may make an effort to go through the entire piece of article, which will be useful to you, and you will be able to learn something out of it. Okay, go through the second type of reading, scanning. Alright, so what is scanning? See, scanning is the technique you use to locate specific bits of information in text. So you're trying to locate some information in the text. Usually, you already know what the text is about, and you know it contains the information you need. So you're just looking for that piece of information. You already know that it's there. To give you an example, imagine you want to check when the Wars of the Roses ended. Now you will open a page in your history textbook, contains this information. Alternatively, you can type in Wars of the Roses into a Google search and your eyes will fly over the text searching for numbers and you will have your answer very quickly. Scanning is a useful technique to employ both in education and real life. Like skimming, it saves you time and makes locating specific facts easy. So we are just trying to scan, right? We know information is there, but we quickly go and type something or find something. So it just helps you to locate the information that we are looking for. That is called scanning. Once again, scanning is sweeping your eyes like radar over part of a text to find specific pieces of information. It helps in quickly locating specific information from a large quantity of written material. You can identify the sections of the text that you probably need to read. And as soon as your eye catches an important word or phrase, slow down to read the relevant section more thoroughly. So that means you just need to wait till you find a specific piece of information that you're looking for, and then you can slow and actually read the text thoroughly. What is skimming versus scanning? So, skimming is used to obtain overall meaning of the text, right? For example, in textbook, to decide the usefulness, you just skim overall meaning. In scanning, you're looking for a specific information from a text, right? You're looking for a specific information. See, for example, this is the example of skimming, right? You go through the entire thing, and when you scan, you're just looking for information. So you have a lot of comparisons happening over here. You exactly know that you are looking for a particular model of phone, and then you will just read about that model very quickly. So this is about scanning and skimming. The next one is intensive reading. Take a minute and please go through the slide. Alright, so what does intensive reading mean? Intensive reading implies you are diving deep into a given text. You want to analyze not only every idea which is expressed in it, but also the words and phrases the author has used. For this reason, intensive reading is usually regarded as an advanced reading activity. To read intensively, you need several types of reading skills we have outlined most notably. So for example, you need to know advanced vocabulary ranged, you need to have excellent attention span, you need to have good memory, and you need to have familiarity with the context, because then only you'll be able to do intensive reading. Intensive is in depth, in detail. You want to know everything. You would, of course, study your school material intensively, but you don't have to employ this reading style only to study for a good grades. Intensive reading helps you gain new vocabulary, makes you a critical reader, and broadens your attention span further. So, if you are reading something really interesting, you don't want to miss out on anything, you know. Otherwise, let's say if you are reading a novel, if you're reading a nice story, or if you're reading some motivation chapters, then you don't want to miss out on something, you know, which is going to break your attention. So that means this type of reading helps you improve your attention span, it helps you build your vocabulary, it helps you sharpen your memory. So that is called intensive reading. If you want an effective intensive reading practice, what you should do, you should pick a reading material that deals with the topic you are interested in first thing, because then only you will be paying attention naturally. Second, set a time when you will read, you know, you decide the time. Third, preview the text by reading the headings, subheadings, and the first sentences of paragraph, so you are sure that yes, I really want to do this. Read the text deeply, noting down any questions that come to your mind or highlighting the statements you want to fast check. So you have to read the text deeply, and you have to note down all the questions that come to your mind, and you have to highlight the statements that you want to fast check. You have to jot down the vocab items you are not familiar with. So whatever items you are not familiar with, then you can also jot down the vocabulary. You can read anything you want, from blog posts to scholarly papers. What matters is that you set a specific time to practice intensive reading instead of trying to concentrate on text while you have other responsibilities on your mind. When it comes to learning new vocabulary, always try to discern the meaning of unknown words and phrases from the context before you look them up in a dictionary. If possible, you should engage in discussion with someone about what you read. Sharing ideas will help you retain what you read for a long time and truly acquire new knowledge. So, this is about intensive reading. You are trying to read everything in detail. Okay, next one is extensive reading. So, what do we mean by extensive reading? You can think of extensive reading as reading for pleasure. You don't have to analyze each part of the reading material or scratch your head anytime you are not sure what the author wanted to say. Reading extensively implies you are reading to get the bigger picture, enjoy the story, and pass the time. So, this is about extensive reading. Extensive reading should not be confused with passive reading. While you are absorbing a certain material for pleasure, you still want to take in new knowledge and engross yourself in the story. Regular extensive reading helps you acquire new vocabulary too. It also builds a healthy habit of reading for pleasure. The last para, ideal materials for extensive reading are magazines, fiction novels, and comic books. Make sure to pick the material you are interested in and create a relaxing environment for reading for at least an hour. So, you should also keep any distractions away. You know, this will help you practice reading. Let's say that you want to actually become an intensive reader, but you don't know, you're not sure if you'll be able to pay attention or not. So, you can start with extensive reading. Pick something which is entertaining, maybe some comic books. Pick something which are like magazines. Of course, you are doing a business course, right? So you should get into the habit of try and read newspaper, or try and read any magazines related to the business, right? Maybe you want to read Economic Times or any kind of journal which are related to business, finance, or HR, anything. So try and read that, you know, and try and create a very relaxing environment. You're really enjoying at least for an hour. So that's how you will be getting into the habit of reading intensively. So these are the four types of reading: skimming, scanning, intensive reading, and extensive reading.